Who were you before you lost your wild self?
That's what we're helping you explore on the Tend Her Wild podcast.
Through questions and tools around how best to listen to your inner voice,
rewild ourselves, and live the most authentic life where we thrive instead of survive.
I'm Betsy.
And I'm Kate.
And we're so glad you've joined us for this episode.
Hello, Tend Her Wild podcast listeners. Today, it's just Betsy and I.
It is.
But we're here really with, I think, kind of an update.
Yeah, and it feels like kind of a full circle moment.
It feels very full circle.
Yeah. I've sat here with you asking these questions to you several years ago, and now the tables are turned and you're going to be speaking to me with some of these same questions.
So in one of our earliest episodes with you, Betsy, I think it's the Meet Betsy episode.
Like number 2.
Yeah.
Episode number 2 or 3, something like that.
Yeah. You let our listeners know that you thought you might need to leave your marriage.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to update our listeners. You indicated recently that you're ready to share where things are. And
well, I don't know if I said that, but you and I had a conversation. I mean, maybe we should go back to when we started this podcast. You and I, the birth of this podcast really was in Iceland. Mm-hmm. You and I were on this trip together. I feel like I have this memory, and I don't know if I've conglomerated many memories together, but I feel like we were on that little van that took us around to all these different sites. And we happened to be sitting in the same seat. And there was some kind of sharing because we were in this wild location and we were working with wild energy. And you admitted to me, I think I need to leave my job. And I said, well, I think I need to leave my marriage. And so there was this moment of like, oh man. And then we both got home from that trip and you get back into the swing of your life and routine. But what stuck was this wild woman archetype energy that then we started this podcast and we're talking about it every week. We're committing ourselves to growing into this energy of the wild woman, which of course is returning to our truth and our natural essence. And then about a year into our podcast and our process, you left your job.
Yep.
Early on in the process, I had separated from my husband for a full year. And then we got back together and decided to really give it one final big shot, which was a process of about 2 years.
Yeah.
And now 2 years being back together, we've really come to a conclusion that, we can't make it work as husband and wife. We will be great co-parents. We, seek to remain good friends. And yet, the original coming together vow that we made it's not viable anymore. Right. And so some really heartbreaking, heart-wrenching decisions. But you said to me, Betsy, when I was ready to leave my job and it was just fresh, we sat down and you interviewed me about it for the podcast. I think we need to do the same for you.
Breaking up with my job.
Breaking up with my job, breaking up with my marriage. But I don't think I would have been ready to do it unless you had kind of brought the idea up. And then I thought, okay, what the heck? Yeah. Being the wild woman is all about authenticity and it's about truth. And you even said to me, we don't have to release this if you don't want, but let's at least have the conversation. Yeah. So here we are. And I think sharing your process, just like all the women that we've interviewed who share their stories with us, there's been pieces, right, that we pulled from different episodes and in people's life stories that we can connect to. And so I think for you too, to share kind of this process, how the wild woman archetype showed up for you, manifested, the process you've been going through can really help other women that may be in similar positions too. I think part of our work has been, like you said, authenticity and being honest about our own journeys, because we're all in this together. So human in this, and it's messy. It's all so messy.
Right. And it's not a straight line. I think, we'll get into your story, but I think often we don't share kind of the messy middle.
No.
And so I just want to first say thank you for your vulnerability in being willing to talk about this. And, your strength, I've watched it from far.
You really have been
close.
Well, I think you've been close most of the time walking me through this whole thing.
Yeah. And so I just want to honor you. It's not easy to kind of open your heart on topics like love and marriage and relationships. But I do think there's power in us as women sharing our stories and the parts that feel important to share. Certainly not everything, but
yes, you will not get all the gory details. However, I do want to also make a shout out to our most recent guest, who I don't know if it'll probably come out before this, the actress
Maddie
Corman, who put a big story out there about her relationship and her marriage. And what I respected so much about how she did it is she was very clear, this is my story. This is not my husband's story. This is not the gory details of what my husband did. This is my story. And so I'm very aware at the outset of us talking about this, that this is my vantage point. And I'm going to be very sensitive and discerning because my story is entwined with my former partner's story and my children's story, and that's theirs to tell. So the piece that I'm going to tell is mine, my internal process, my internal pain, my internal doubt. And that feels like a respect because, of course, I love all these people in my life and I respect their process, which, of course, is different than my own.
Thank you for that. That's a great place.
Thank you to Maddie, because she, I think, modeled that here again. As women, we learn from each other. And when one of us is willing to be vulnerable and put ourselves out there, it gives other people the freedom and maybe even a vision of how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So we get back from Iceland.
Yeah.
And you had, like you said, a pretty big aha moment on that trip.
Yeah.
And that felt like kind of the beginning of what was the next almost 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, shortly after that trip, there was some developments that happened, and we chose to separate. So we lived separate for a year, and we kept our kids in the family home. We nested, meaning that we each had separate places that we would go to, and I feel like we did a really good job of keeping things pretty steady and stable for the kids. We both did our own personal work. We continued to communicate and talk. And I think it was absolutely necessary, that year separation. It started to, bring to light some important things. And then after that year, we moved into, it's sort of, my lease was coming up, and it's like, all right, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. And there was no clarity. It's interesting. People so often say, you'll know when you know, the clarity will come when, and I was like, when is this clarity coming? How come I do not know? And so really, frankly, after that year, I didn't know. I was still deep in the sea of doubt. And so the decision was made, well, let's just move back in together and let's see what happens. And I think initially after the moving back in together, there was deep relief because the idea of splitting a household and a home and a life, and, it's so overwhelming. It strikes me how, like 50% of people get a divorce. Like this is not an uncommon thing. And yet, how deeply painful and distressing and overwhelming it is. I mean, I don't think I was prepared for that. Every aspect is connected. Yeah. And I think no matter what relationship is breaking apart or changing, in every relationship, there's good and there's bad. And ours was no different. There's so much good. There's so much positive. There's so much love. And then there were some really hard things that we just could not overcome that really clouded our capacity to be our best selves. And so that's also really confusing because it wasn't all bad. And so the doubt was just ever present.
Yeah. And we certainly, we hang on to those positive things as you're, like you said, you're both doing your work and you're moving forward. It's just, it becomes kind of this weighing of the good and the bad, and being able to at some point there's a tipping point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, I think that for anyone who's in a situation with any kind of ending, whether it's a relationship or a friendship or a job, I do think there's so much doubt. Like you really are in this liminal space. And the hard part is that you can have even days or weeks of like things are pretty good. And you convince yourself like, oh, it's not that bad. I just must be making up my negative feelings about this. And so you convince yourself. I mean, also our brain doesn't like change. Our brain and our system doesn't like change. And so trying to convince yourself of every reason not to go or not to leave or not to make this big change. And then of course, this big change is not just about me, it's about all kinds of people in my life. And so I lived in doubt for years. And I have to just admit, it's a really horrible place to live because it's a roller coaster. So there'll be good moments and you'll convince yourself, I'm okay, I'm grateful. And then there'll be incidents or just really dark periods where, quite frankly, there were times that I didn't want to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. I shared with friends that there were times that I just didn't want to live. And I wasn't ever suicidal. I wasn't ever like, oh, I feel a desire to harm myself, but it was almost like a passive sense of like, how do I go on? How do I move through this? This is so confusing and overwhelming, and there's no clarity and there's no clear path forward. Right. And staying doesn't feel good and leaving doesn't feel good. And so nothing feels good. So there were definitely pockets of really deep darkness and doubt. And also I will admit, self-hatred might be a really strong word, but I was really angry at myself.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you make this work? Why can't you open up? Why can't you be a better wife? Why can't you just look on the bright side? Why, and that was as damaging as anything is the conversations I was having with myself, because I really wanted it to work. I mean, I have, in fact, this weekend, I'm going to celebrate my parents' 60th wedding anniversary. Mm-hmm. They're still deeply in love. I didn't really have divorce in my family lineage. I always wanted to be a wife and a mother. I value family. I'm a Cancer, meaning like family and home is really important to me. And so this was never anything that I foresaw or imagined for myself. And yet here it is. And I think that's such a common story for women too, is that you don't ever believe you'll be in this situation. And so when you are, it's almost like a shock to the whole system.
Yeah. Would you say too, there's like shame and guilt
so much shame
comes up from
so
society.
So much shame. And so much guilt around how could I have done this differently? What did I do wrong? Isn't there? And I will say, I really honor both myself and my partner for doing so much work, doing so much inner work individually, doing work together, attempting to make this work. I mean, I think there's also something in marriage that, when you do come together initially, there's an energetic match, just like there was for me and my former partner, right? Like we were a perfect match. And then as life evolves and people grow in different directions or at different rates, then suddenly that whole energetic match changes. And maybe we got together because our partner carried something for us that we couldn't carry ourselves, or vice versa. And so it almost becomes like this transactional relationship, because I'll do this for you, you do this for me. And then there's like a stuck thing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I definitely think we had reached a point where there was this mismatch. And as I look at it, it wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't his fault or my fault.
Yeah. And that's a really,
there's no finger pointing here, right? It's just like we grew in different directions. We grew at different rates. We couldn't seem to match up. And we both had big jobs. We had 3 children. There's so many reasons that maybe we didn't match up in the same way. And, I can go back and say, well, if we only would have done this different or, but that's not going to help me at this point.
No.
But my point is we did try a lot of things
You did.
to
You
make this relationship work. And there came a point when I had to accept, all right, we've tried 50 things. Now, can I imagine that the 51st thing or the 51st book or the 51st therapist or weekend retreat, it's like, it's not going to change this. It's deeper and bigger than us. And maybe our souls aren't meant to stay together in the way that they first initially came together. So there was a lot of moments for me of like, I can stay stuck in complacency. I can stay stuck in what feels safe and normal. And I think that happens to so many of us, is that the fear of change is too big. And so we just convince ourselves like, yeah, it's a little bit of a small life, or it's a little, it's not quite, there's something that's not quite right, but enough of it is okay. And also, damn, I'm so scared of change, right? Like the changes are immense.
What's that fear of the unknown? Well, what is next?
Yeah.
What am I I know what I have now is the fear of the unknown greater.
Yeah.
And at what point isn't it?
Hi, I'm Sam, founder of the Local Hub. When I moved to Iowa City, I felt like a tourist, and I'm sure you can relate if you've ever moved somewhere new or just haven't explored your city in years. Supporting local has never been more important, and the Local Hub makes it simple. It's a community-first way to uncover the local businesses, events, and hidden spots that make an area feel like home. If you're in the Iowa City area, you'll find us online, in print, and on social media, all designed to keep you in the loop about what's happening here. Visit thelocalhub-ic.com and start living like a local.
Can I ask you, because I did watch you. I watched you from...
You had a front row seat, sister.
No, I did.
You had a front row seat.
Doing the work. And at some point, and tell me if this is true, I feel like you almost stopped looking for the answer outside of yourself or in some resource or even though those were valuable in your process. But I watched you kind of all of a sudden really turn inward.
Yeah, that's
and you got really quiet.
It's interesting.
Because to me, so often the answers are all, inside us. Our body's showing them. Our heart has the answers. Like, do you think there was a time where you kind of, like you said, 51st time, right? I exhausted all of those things. But what was true for you was there was an acceptance of like, I know what I need to do. None of those things are going to move me away. This is my truth.
Yeah.
This is our truth.
Yeah. Well, I have to actually, Kate, acknowledge you in this process, because you at some point said this, and I don't know if it was in a podcast or just a conversation, how your process is that when you have a big decision to make, you actually don't go talk to anyone about it. You don't talk to 3 or 4 or 5 friends and ask their opinions. You go in. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's really cool. Because I will say my pattern, I think doubt has been a part of my life even early on, even before I was married. Like I doubt, I had a really hard time with decision making. And I don't know if it's because of my sensitivity or the good girl I needed to make the right decision and how much that kept me stuck. But I did always have a tendency to be like, oh, I don't know what to do. Let me talk to my sister. Okay, now let me talk to my mom. Okay, now let me talk to my best friend. Okay, now let me just ask this person. And then, of course, you get lots of different opinions, and some of them might be wise and clear, but they just kept me churning. So you at some point kind of planted that seed for me. And I don't know if it was a conscious thing or it was just a timing thing, but I agree. I think I had done the 51st thing. I think I had talked to 50 people about this. I think I had gone to 7 therapists, and I was staying stuck. There was no movement forward. And so, in this last year, I even said this to my former partner. I said, I just feel like I'm in a trust fall.
Yeah.
I got to let go. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means for us. I had in fact drawn a card at one point from the tarot. And for anyone who knows the tarot deck, it was the Tower card, which is the king and the queen falling from the tower towards the ground. And I remember like, oh yeah, that's it. I'm in the free fall. I have no idea when I'm going to land. I don't know what the ground is going to feel like. It may be a hard fall. It may be a soft fall, but I'm in this free fall, this liminal space. And so I said that I knew that I was there. And then I don't know if there was a moment where I just went in and quit talking. I think I was I'm going to use some language here. I was so fucking tired of listening to myself moan and groan about my misery and my doubt. I just was tired of talking about it. And so, yeah, maybe there was a turning in that started to happen for me.
You said to me once, you're like, I don't know. I'm just getting comfortable with, I don't know.
I don't know.
And I'm going to stop trying so hard to you surrendered.
There was a big surrender.
Yeah. And it felt like after that, things started to kind of align for you. It was like we hold on to control so much in so many aspects of our lives. And it's often when we relinquish control, that alignment starts to show up for us. I really think that. And I know it's been a process, and I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes from the outside, people are like, oh, she just woke up one morning and thought, it's time to go, right?
It's probably a decade of, and there's a couple other pieces here. I think our ego wants us to stay stuck. Our ego wants us to stay in the status quo. Our ego wants us to stay with what is, keep us safe, keep us small. And so I think that was also going on. Because I knew the change was going to be so major, not just for me, but everyone I loved the most. I was going to impact their lives with this decision.
Right.
And so it felt big. And I do think these big, huge, pivotal life decisions are, they're like grown into, they're developed into. So I think maybe as I'm reflecting on it, the early stages of trying to make these big decisions, and maybe you felt this with your job, is you are logically thinking it through. You are getting all the resources. You are reading all the books. You are talking to the coaches and the therapist, and you're doing all of that. And then there's still stuckness. So then it was like, wow, all right, I have to let go. I have to surrender. I have to be in the not knowing. That maybe this is all part of the process for these huge life decisions. And then there was a moment of shift for me, which people told me was going to come, and I never believed them. I was like, you're just saying that to make me feel better. I don't believe you. Yeah. I've been in this long. That moment is not going to come.
You and I talked a long time ago when we were reading Radical Awakening to Folly, which I highly recommend.
Yes.
But she talks about, I even think I sent you the chapter 6, maybe, the hand on the back. Feeling the hand on your back. That's how it worked for her. And she talks about that. And so you had a moment, or at least kind of a period of time that you can mark on when the shift, like you felt yourself, like it's time. It's like it's a whisper. It's a knowing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of when the indecision dissipated.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it would be a really sexy story if I could be like, there was this one moment, but I mean, it was a period of months. I mean, I think it started with my 50th birthday, which was a year ago. And during that, one of the friends there said, what's your intention for the year or whatever? And it put me on the spot, and I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, I think I need to put myself first. And then all these women started to create this like song chant about, she said she'd put herself first. And so that kind of became my mantra for the year, which was so antithetical to any way that I'd ever lived. And I think most women live. But I was really trying to continue to think about what's best for me. And I will say, we talk a lot about it on this podcast, but my body was not doing well.
Talk about that, because I think in indecision, our body is living in that indecision. Our body responds to that, the mind-body connection. Talk about, what signs were your, and how do you feel now?
Yeah. I mean, For me, I mean, I have this history of autoimmune stuff that can flare. I was just in pain all the time. My joints were in pain. I was tired a lot. My sleep tends to just go out the window when I'm in overwhelm and stress. I'm going through menopause. I mean, it was just kind of all
timing, right?
Yeah, it was kind of all hitting. But I had a deep intuitive sense that I just couldn't live in this low level stress indefinitely, that I just sensed that like something really bad is going to happen, Betsy, to your body and your health if you stay in this situation of doubt and pain and, just low level challenge. And I knew I needed to shift out of it. But even that sense of like, ooh, you could get really sick if you don't change something, even that sometimes wasn't enough to push me forward, because then I would go into the mindset of, yeah, but what about my kids? Or what about, again, the ego would cling and be like, you can't do this. You're not strong enough.
Right.
You asked, where's my body at now? I mean, I moved into a different home and been there about 3 weeks. And the first 2 weeks of being there, my body pain flared so much to the point of like, I couldn't take walks at night. I was in so much pain. I couldn't sleep. The pain was waking me up in the middle of the night. And I sort of feel like my body is detoxing. It's still detoxing sort of what I've been carrying. And then last week I went on kind of a girls' vacation trip out west and my pain went away. And I was shocked because I've been getting acupuncture. I've been going to PT. I was ready to go see an orthopedic surgeon. Like, what is going on? And I'm away from stress and just like in the sunshine and the light with no expectation, and the pain's gone. I'm like, what? So I do think my body is working through some old pain patterns. The deep emotional pain, I think, is manifesting in my physical body.
Yeah. Well, and that's also good to share because, it's not like as soon as I made the decision, I was pain-free. Right?
Yeah, no.
I think it's going to
be a process. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're probably resetting your nervous system,
I
right?
think that's huge. Yeah.
Recalibration of that and figuring out, what's your new, like, how are you setting your new, I call it the thermostat, right?
Yeah.
Like, where is that going to be for you? Because we're kind of attuned to people, right? And nervous systems.
Yeah.
And so that's probably a process. But, but there, I think, you've always taught me that there's such wisdom in our bodies.
Yeah.
And
I knew that.
And
even that deep sense of my body. And I am so impeccable with how I care for my body in terms of how I move and the meditation I do every day and the food that I put in it. And so that was also disconcerting to me, that like, I know I'm taking impeccable care. And despite that, my body is still giving me all these signs and signals. So, and as a mind body psychologist, like I knew it, I saw it. And again, that ego was still like, yeah, well, maybe you're making it up, or maybe you just need to add a third workout in for the week, or maybe you need to get rid of dairy, or, I was trying to, again, come up with all the other things that I could. Again, it's like our wild woman archetype. Can I box myself a little tighter in this area? Control, so that I actually don't have to do this thing that my soul is urging me, like, Betsy, this isn't right for you. You need to listen. But it took me a long time.
Yeah. So we were talking that when we had Cathy Pagano on at the beginning of the season, and she said that this is the year of beginnings and endings. And we were hearkening back to that message.
For everyone, it sounds like this universally, collectively, we're going through lots of endings.
Yeah. And so how is that? Because that's kind of been the external, our external world has been in this huge, I don't know if it's transformation yet, but it's in the process of something. And it's been challenging and somewhat dark. And you are such a gifted teacher about holding the light and the dark and allowing both of them in, and the power of both. How are you It's funny that you said I went away and I felt like I was in the light, right?
Yeah.
Kind of moved into a new space, geographically, but so how are you now holding kind of the lightness and darkness of the experience of divorce and ending a relationship?
It's a great question. I mean, I think as I've been listening to all these different energy experts talk about this year and the astrology of the beginnings and endings, I mean, what I've heard is that whatever isn't authentic and true in this year has to die. It has to fall away. And so I think that is part of what was going on is, again, there were lots of parts of our relationship that were good and true, but there were parts that really were not good and true. And so it's like no matter how much effort we threw at trying to fix it, it wasn't fixable. And so it had to die. And I had said that, well over a year ago, like it's dead. But again, the ego wants to convince you like, oh no, let's just try a little bit more. But I think for all of us, we're like the snake. And this is also ironically the year of the snake. You have to shed the skin. Like if we don't shed our skin and allow the next iteration of ourself to come in, like the snake dies if it doesn't shed its skin. And I felt like I was dying, not literally, but maybe literally, I don't know, but figuratively, there was parts of me that just were dying off. And I, definitely expressed that to my partner. And so, there's a shedding. So where I'm at now, I mean, I'm so fresh into the shedding. I do think the skin is maybe half off at this point. I'm still wiggling out. I do have these moments of freedom and light and realizing I'm moving into a new iteration that feels more authentic. It feels more vulnerable and real to me. I would be a huge liar if I didn't tell you I was scared as hell. I'm scared, so scared about what it means and all the unknowns. But my soul, really listening so deeply to my soul, it knew that I needed to do this. And so I feel like I'm following my soul, which is really the only thing I want to follow in this lifetime. I think I'm breaking some generational patterning on both sides of my kids' lives in terms of you have to work hard and stay with hard things and, hunker down and make it work no matter what. I think I'm showing them, there are actually things that it's okay to say this isn't working.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm teaching them that they can walk away from things in the future if it doesn't feel right to them. I don't think they're going to get that right away, but maybe somewhere down the road.
Yeah. I think about Liz Lenz.
Yeah.
And having that interview with her.
Oh, God. Do you remember during that interview, we're talking to her about divorce? You kept looking at me like, Betsy, she's telling your story. And I'm like, inside, like, oh shit, I relate to this person, but I don't want to hear this right now. I'm not ready for it.
Yeah. But somehow there's been several women that we've interviewed and and
you give me the stink eye, Kate. You look at me sideways like, Betsy, she's speaking to you. Do you hear her?
I know. File that away, Betsy.
File that away, Betsy.
But I think you have collected the wisdom of many women.
Yeah, I've been really lucky to hear lots of women's stories and see lots of women's resilience and strength and courage to move through and move to the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say you brought up soul several times. And it does feel to me like you are now very connected to your own soul and what it wants and desires and deserves.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in front of this soul artwork today, which is
I know we just changed our setup and we're like, why did it take us 3 years to change our setup? It's so beautiful.
So
my dear friend, Marcia Neeland created this soul art for me. It's got like 17 different spiritual symbols in it. It's got the goddesses all around the edge of this big painting. It's the balance of the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, the tree of life. It's just a symbol of transformation. And actually, I'm realizing this now, she painted this the year of my separation.
Yes.
And in fact, this hung in the apartment that I lived in for a year. And it was like I would stand in front of it. I would meditate in front of it. I would dance in front of it. It was really, and so it's ironic that this is our first day that we changed positions with this painting behind us. And we're talking about this major shifting for me.
Yeah.
It's good.
It is the full circle moment.
It is full circle.
And all these messages that are, and this feels emblematic of your journey.
Yeah.
In so many ways. And actually the journey kind of our podcast of like reconnecting to our feminine, me, the feminine, you, the masculine, healing parts of ourselves. So I just wanted to shout out to Marcia because it's such a beautiful display of transformation and the goddess and the feminine. And
I want to shout out to Marcia too, because she has also, just similar to you, been such a solid rock to me throughout this process and has sort of been with me every step of the way. And when she created this art, knew what I was going through, and really, I think, spent extra time on this because she was as a support and love for me. And it really, again, it's so symbolic of this phase of my life. And I'm so grateful. I mean, I think I just want to speak to women out there who are scared about whatever change maybe is coming your way, whether you're asking for it or not. I was reminded actually just last night by a dear friend that, you are strong and you have good people in your life. And you have a connection to a higher power, and you have a capacity to go into the silence and listen to yourself. You have everything you need. And that was such a gift to me. And I think for any woman out there, even if you're walking away from some sense of security or stability or just the known, even if it's a toxic known, remembering what you do have.
Right. And that's that. I was just on a walk this morning with a woman talking about midlife as our children are growing kind of in their own directions, right? They're growing and we're needed less and less of our energy is maybe going in that direction. There is a turning in, and there is a point where we are reevaluating midlife. We're reevaluating our purpose, what we want to do with our time, how we love, all of that. Yeah. And just, I think, normalizing those conversations, that it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you.
No. Or even like, I just want to acknowledge there's nothing wrong with me or my partner.
No.
Like we both had stuff, of course. Everyone has stuff. But it just wasn't working no matter how hard we tried. Yeah. And so I think that to me feels really important, is that when we are going through a change, instead of having to point fingers and blame, it's like, this is just life. Life is one series of change after the other. And yes, I didn't want this change. He didn't want this change, but here it was. Right. And to stay in something that wasn't quite right wasn't good for him or me, or probably even our children long term.
Right.
But it takes,
it's not easy. Time. It's not easy. But having others, and you've been that for me in so many ways in my life, having friends who will just kind of be witnesses to the process.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, I mean, I'm sure there were times when I gave unsolicited advice, but
I was looking for it at times as well, Kate. So.
But sometimes it's just witnessing and being with women and knowing that you're there for them.
Yeah.
Showing up, being present during things. And we do that for some big events in life, but I think sometimes we, relationships and marriage, right? It's like success is how long have you been married?
Yep. I think that's such a good point. Success in our culture is, how long have you been together versus like, are you still having sex? Are you feeling emotionally supported? Are you having fun and laughing together? Are you communicating about important things, right? Like we just say, well, they've been together this long, but they sleep in separate bedrooms. They never talk. They're miserable. They hate each other, right? Like,
yes.
And that's not an authentic life. And I could have done that. I have models for that.
We can all choose to do that. I think it comes down to choice. We have choices. I think midlife is the time The
fires
reckoning.
things up, man. It's the reckoning. That's a great way to describe it.
Is this what I want? Is
Yeah.
this right now at this point in my life? Is this what I want? And whether you're searching for that in your life's work or relationships, it's all similar. It's a similar process of kind of recalibrating and evaluating where you're at and what's working and what's not, and then getting and reaching out for support. But knowing too, like you said, that so often going in.
Yeah.
And that's the wild woman archetype.
That is the wild woman. And actually, I think maybe this is a good way to even wrap up this conversation. Even though there was not one moment, this was a process, always a years and years of process, but really got intense in the last 6 to 9 months. I scheduled a silent meditation retreat. I'd had an especially hard, challenging week. And I remember waking up on a Sunday morning and feeling that familiar sense of like, I just don't even, what's the point? I don't even like, what's the point of living? Like, again, I wasn't wanting to end my life, but just feeling so dark.
Yeah.
And I opened my email, and as many of you who know, I don't do email. I hate email. Why I open an email on a Sunday morning, I never know. But there was an email about a silent meditation retreat, a 5-day. And I'd always wanted to go on a silent meditation retreat and never had. And it was like something beyond me. That's the hand on the back.
Okay.
That was like, you got to do this. And so I've never signed up for, I opened the email within a minute. I'm on the site signing up for this retreat. There were 2 rooms left. I didn't ask anyone. I didn't check out with my kids or my kid's father, like, hey, is this going to work for me to be? I just was like, I have to be there.
Do this.
Okay. So I sign up, I send my money in, and then my daughter gets mono, and she's really sick to the point we had her in the ER. And the mama bear in me was like, well, I can't go. Do you remember calling me? And you're like, I can't do this. Yeah. I'm just going to have to eat that money, and I need to stay here with my daughter. And I think maybe it was even after I talked to you, I went into my backyard and I was like pacing, which I tend to do. Like I pace. And so I was making like a circle in my backyard. It's just pacing. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And again, the hand on the back, what I heard a voice, and it was definitely a voice outside of myself, because I talk to myself. I know my own voice. I know this felt beyond. And the voice was like, so are you going to start to put yourself first? Which again was what I had committed to on my 50th birthday.
Yeah.
I'm going to put myself first. And in that moment, I was like, I have to go. Oh my gosh, I have to go. So I show up at this retreat, which is and
we should say she was doing better,
but I was still here. Yeah. And then I show up at this retreat in Idaho, and there's no internet, and there's going to be no phone coverage. And I remember saying to the teacher, like, my daughter just was in the hospital, but I had to surrender. I was like, all right, well, I have to believe that she's okay. And
trust
I
your
need
partner.
To be here.
He was there.
I need to be here. And it was really, nothing short of life-changing for me. The first moment was we were told, like, this is a vow of silence. You're not even looking at people. You're not making eye contact with people. And so what went away from me was this need to care for anyone else, even like realizing how I subtly care for strangers in public places, like by smiling at them. And I couldn't do any of that. So it was just me and Betsy for 5 days, sleeping in this little glamping camper. And what I realized in those 5 days was that I liked myself. I actually felt really calm and steadfast in my own presence. I wasn't struggling. I wasn't in doubt. And in those moments, I realized, like, oh, you're going to be fine alone. Like, look at how settled and actually content you are in your own presence. Like, you could be alone for the rest of your life and you'll be just fine. And for some reason that shifted something in me, like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. And that I actually internally in myself, sitting with just myself for 5 days, I'm actually really good. I feel really good inside. And so that was the impetus then. And when I got back, then a lot of stuff started to fall in place and things started to move faster. And so I do think it was, to harken back to an earlier conversation, going into the silence, listening to myself, trusting myself, making a decision for myself on my own. That really was a major opening.
Yeah. Which again, it's the wild woman whisper, right?
The wild woman whispered.
You're quiet enough to hear it.
She whispered in Iceland, and then
and it stays with us.
Yeah, she does. She's very persistent. When she say Kate, she doesn't. She just keeps coming back around, like, hey.
It's
there's more.
With clients, I talk a lot about like what's something that keeps coming up for you.
Yeah.
Like, what is the whisper? What is for so many of us, desires and dreams live in us. They're there. And we, society quiets them. We quiet them. Not time now. It's not time. But there is often something that it's once it's planted, once she's arrived and you're open enough to hear it, you will continue to. Yes, it's insistent because it's your inner truth. It's your soul.
Your soul. Yeah. And I mean, maybe I could have numbed out for the next decade and, drank and smoked a lot. And then the voice would have been way in the background, but I wasn't doing that. I can't do that anymore. And so then the next thing was that I had to follow the voice, because I do trust the voice. I mean, I believe in the voice. And that was also crazy making for me, because I do trust my soul. I do trust my inner voice. I do have all these tools to listen. And even though I knew what I had to do, I still couldn't do it, which I think there was clearly some divine timing that was beyond me that I had to play out as well. So
I think that's very true, but I honor your process, which everyone has their own process.
Yeah, there's no right way.
No, there's no one way. There's no right way. I think, again, we can learn from one another, but we can only live our own experience and listen to our own voice.
Yeah. My hope is women out there that are, facing their own major ending and beginning, that maybe there's just one little nugget in here that spoke to you. And above all, go in, listen, your soul knows. There's guidance. There's so much guidance beyond you. And it's okay to be scared. I think it's part of moving into the new, is that there's some doubt, and you don't have to be 100% certain to go for it.
You don't have to be 100% certain. You just need to trust trust yourself. So
thank you, Kate. This was easier than I thought. I was like, ooh, how is this going to unfold? But I appreciate the space to process.
Well, it's really powerful. And I'm as your friend, excited for your next chapter. I know it won't all be easy.
No.
But it will be honest. And
yeah.
And
well
that
said.
For you is always been my hope. So thanks,
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Come back and rewild with us again next week.